Hello and welcome back to the channel. Hi if you're new here, hi if you're not. Today we're going to be reacting to one of the biggest scammers on the internet. Just kidding, it's me! I did one of these videos probably a year or two ago. I'll link it in the cards here, where basically we react to some of my old life coaching content. If you're new here, hello. My name's Danielle, and once upon a time, about 6 or 7 years ago, I thought that I was a 26-year-old life coach. And so I'll let you make your assumptions about how that went, and we're going to go ahead together and watch some of my old Facebook content. So grab your drinks, grab your snacks, and get ready to cringe as hard as possible with me as we navigate through this content together. Okay, so the first video, starting off strong, is titled You Are Enough.
I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not strong enough. Have these thoughts ever crossed your mind? Well, you're not alone. In fact, each and every one of us has had these thoughts at least once in our lifetime, but likely many times more.
First thing I want to say is, how robotic is this delivery? Have you ever had a thought or a feeling in your lifetime? I think all of us have had a thought or a feeling. I think now it's just so funny to me because I create so much content here on YouTube. My job outside of YouTube is to create content. It's so funny to listen to myself at this stage when I guess I was like relatively new to creating content. And it's just so funny how much of a robot I sound like. Oh my God.
The important thing to remember here is that you create your own limits. Your journey is uniquely yours. And you are exactly where you need to be.
This sounds like I went on Pinterest, I searched motivational pins, and then I filmed a video of me reading every motivational pin that I could find. And honestly, I kind of think this speaks to my experience in coaching. Again, keep in mind, I was 26 years old when I became a life coach. And so I know for a fact I was never really in the like scammy side of coaching. I never talked about, income claims or convincing people that I could teach them to make millions of dollars. My style of coaching, if you will, was really more in the mindset side, motivational, helping people to live their best lives. And so I think that this is a prime example of the type of content that I would create in that time, where I really just wanted people to, live up to their full potential, realize that they can do anything they set their mind to, and da 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 da. I consider myself to have just been really young and naive at that time versus actually having ill intent. And of course, other people can perceive it differently. That's fine too. But when I think about my experience in coaching versus a lot of the people that we look at on this channel, where I often question, like, how could you not know that what you're doing is a scam? I even now don't really think that this was necessarily a scam so much as just incredibly misguided. And honestly, it kind of makes me feel like a little bit sorry for this version of myself. Like, how could you not see what was going on? Okay, so these next two videos, I'll play them back to back because I think they kind of go together. The first one is titled, What is a Coach? And then the next one is titled, Why Bother Hiring a Coach? And this video in particular, I believe, is like one of the first videos I ever posted to my Facebook page. So this would have been like July of 2018.
What is mindset coaching? Well, first, it's not counseling, it's not therapy, and I am not your mother. Mindset coaching is about helping my clients identify problems in their life, in their relationships, their careers, and their businesses, and then directing them from where they're feeling stuck to where they want to be.
Again, pausing to point out how uncomfortable I look in this video. Also, I'm clearly reading a script above the camera. If you watch my eyes, you can see that I'm doing this while I'm talking, and I'm not really invested in what I'm saying so much as reading a script.
It's about teaching people a sense of self-awareness, how to set goals, and providing them that accountability they need to stay motivated to actually achieve those goals. It's about providing people the space to unlock their own potential by learning to recognize their own limiting beliefs and stop standing in their own way. Think of your desire for change as a road trip, and mindset coaching is the fuel that you're going to need to move from your starting point to your destination.
Again, I don't really think I said anything inherently wrong or problematic per se, but it just felt like a lot of word salad, saying things without really definitively saying anything at all. Let's find out why we should hire a coach.
Why hire a coach? You feel stuck. You have this big idea, this itch. You want to grow, but you don't know how. You want more, but you also want it to be easy. Cue the coach.
The dramatics. Oh my God. This is so cringe, guys. I don't know if I could make it to the end of this video.
A coach helps you to shed new light on an old situation. A coach offers the third-party perspective you won't get from your partner, from your family, from your friends, or from yourself. A coach serves as the sounding board for difficult decisions and provides you the accountability you need to actually succeed. The best part, though, is that you are in the driver's seat. You decide the focus. We've been taught that hard work and doing it on your own are the keys to success. Some people even sacrifice their health, their relationships, and the ability to enjoy their life in order to achieve success. But I'm here to tell you that you don't need to do that. So why hire a coach? To learn that all you desire is closer than you could have ever imagined.
Okay, it cut off at the end there, but it says all that you desire is yours to have. This is such an out of body experience for me. I believe I said this in the last video that I created like this, but I am so far detached from this version of myself that watching these videos, I have this is not me. I don't recall ever believing this or acting like this or talking like this. And so it's just so interesting to me to watch this, knowing obviously logically that this is me, but being so far detached from these thoughts and these feelings that I just cannot relate. And again, similar to what I've already said, this is really just coming across as this person doesn't really actually know what they're saying so much as they're just regurgitating either what they heard from their coach or what they read online or what they read in a book or da 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 da. It feels very inauthentic. Okay, the title of this one made me chuckle. It says, "Tell your fears bye-bye." Oh my goodness. And I do want to say, if anyone has picked up on this already, this was from, I specifically remember this time period was from when I was working with my second coach in 2019. If you're new here and you haven't heard my story of how I got scammed by the coaching industry, the different coaches that I worked with, I would encourage you to go and listen to this video next. But basically in 2019, I worked with more of a marketing coach, I guess you could call her. And she had us, those of us in the program, funny enough, create these Jay Shetty-esque style short form videos. So back in 2019, this specific meme style of content was doing really well. And so you would always have, the title split between the top and the bottom of the screen. You would have captions. And then I even have my logo in the screen you'll see here. So just if you've picked up on that as we've been watching these, this was a very clear sort of template that everyone that was in this coach's program was using at that time.
Today I want to talk to you about the F word, fear. How you can learn to live with it, take action in spite of it, and actually use fear as your source of motivation. If you are sick and tired of letting fear hold you back, then listen up because I have 4 tips for you. Step number 1 is to really understand what the risk is that you're facing. You see, all too often we tend to blow these scenarios out of proportion when really the thing that we're afraid of isn't something worthy of our fear. You see, we tend to view a lot of things in our lives as risky, but we don't really think about what that risk means. And so we often tend to view risk as a negative concept when really risk is just possibility.
Honestly, I don't necessarily disagree with this so far. I really do have this interesting relationship with confronting fears and doing things that don't make any sense, even if they're really scary. But for me, it's just the delivery again with this content. It feels very inauthentic. It feels like I don't necessarily believe what I'm saying here so much as just regurgitating what I've heard from someone else. And so I think that's the interesting thing that we see in coaching in general is a lot of the times the concepts that a lot of these coaches, whether it's business coaching, life coaching, spiritual coaching, the concepts that they speak about are in many cases true or valuable, but the delivery, I think, is where a lot of them get caught up because they're so focused on just copying or saying whatever their upline head coach told them to say. They're not really taking the time to digest that information and put their own sort of spin on it. And so I think that this is just kind of an example of that.
Source of opportunity and to things far greater than you could have ever imagined.
Also, the fact that I stare into the camera like this while I'm talking is actually creeping me out. And I don't know if those of you watching feel that way too, but I'm getting a little bit uncomfortable.
Second, I want you to be willing to surrender. You see, fear is rooted in a lack of trust. And as much as you'd probably like to control your outcomes in life, you can't. So if you can let go of knowing how things are going to work out and trust that you are acting in line with the life that you want, just know that stepping out of that fear is going to get you closer to that.
There's also a whole conversation, obviously, to be had here about the privilege that is very obvious in any of this for me to be, 26 years old, coming on here saying, oh, just face your fears and do whatever you want. Like, obviously, I know people's circumstances in life impede their ability to go after the things they want. And that was a big thing. I believe it even came up in my last reaction video, reacting to my own content. It's like I was in a very privileged position when I decided to become a life coach, or even when I decided to quit my job and start a yoga studio. And so it's easy for me from a place of privilege to say, oh, well, just do the thing that scares you. It's no problem. When the reality is, for the majority of people, they aren't afforded the same opportunities. And so I'm always kind of watching this content under that lens, knowing my own privileges, knowing the circumstances of my life at that time. And I guess it kind of just makes me feel like a little bit guilty about it now, because I'm like, girl, wake up.
Third, I want you to really weigh giving into the fear versus taking the risk and just saying screw it.
Also, why am I screaming?
Listen, I have been in your shoes. I have told fear to just beat it when I didn't know if things were going to work out for me. But guess what? They did. Maybe not right away, but once I really leaned in and trusted, took action in line with the life that I wanted, I was able to see that things that I didn't even know were possible for me could come true. And so I cannot stress this enough. Please weigh best case scenario versus worst case scenario and decide which one is really more tragic.
Okay, this is actually interesting. This was an exercise that my very first coach ever had me do. Let me know in the comments if this was something your coach had you do. But anytime I wanted to make a decision, I remember even leading up to deciding whether or not I was going to leave my 9 to 5 job, I would write down the best and worst case scenario. So what this means is, let's just say it's 2016, I'm working my government job and I want to quit. I would write down, what is the absolute best case scenario that happens if I quit my job? Well, I open this business. I become a millionaire. I buy all these nice things. Worst case scenario, I quit my job. I fail at owning my business. I end up moving into my mom's basement. Okay, and the idea is that you basically convince yourself that no matter what, the worst case scenario is never really that bad. So you might as well try to do the thing, because what if it works out? And again, like I said at the beginning, in theory, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that when you are making tough life choices, it is important to think about, what might happen if this really works out and what might happen if it doesn't. That's a part of effective decision making. But what it fails to acknowledge is the privilege that is available to you when you have the freedom to make that choice so simply. The fact that I could quit my job and fail and move into my mom's basement if it didn't work out in itself is a privilege that a lot of people don't have. And so again, it's easy for this person to come on here and say, oh, I'll just do this. It's so simple, and try to sort of give it as blanket advice for anyone when they don't actually know each individual's circumstance. And I get it. Videos on the internet aren't made for every single person, but I just can't watch this and not say something.
Which result is more in line with the life you want? Which one is more important to you? You see, the simplest cure for fear is to take action. It doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how small. Simply start something today. What matters is that nothing is ever as big as you fear. And what matters is that you don't need to give fear the power to control your life.
I will say that to this day, I still do agree that most things in life are never as scary as we think they will be. So if I have to give this woman, who I do not claim to know, any merit for what she's saying, it will be that most of the things that we're afraid of in life are never actually as scary as we think they are. But I still don't agree with her otherwise.
I want you to experience life beyond your fears, because trust me, it is so worth it.
Trust me, guys. I'm 26 years old. I know what I'm talking about. Get out of here. Okay, next one is titled Stop This One Thing. Let's figure out what the one thing is that's preventing us all from having the life of our desires.
Hi there. Me again. Here to remind you that your excuses are holding you back. Like, no one will buy from me, it's not financially feasible, I don't have the time, someone's already doing whatever I want to do. Sound familiar? Can you just freaking stop already? The fact is, if you wanted it bad enough, you would get resourceful. You would figure out a way to make it work.
I sound Like every other boss babe we have ever reacted to on this channel. Oh my god, I'm embarrassed. This is bad.
Those of us who have already ditched the corporate life didn't just fall into these lives. We stopped the excuses and we got to work.
This is a prime example of how these environments work. So let's all keep in mind that, well, yes, what I'm saying is cringe. I was surrounded by other people who legitimately believe these things. I legitimately believe this at this time. This was when I was like at my peak.
9 to 5 jobs are terrible. No one should ever work a 9 to 5. We all need to be girl boss business babes, own our own business, have time freedom.
And to me, watching this video, this is a prime example of what spending your time in an environment like that can do to you and your belief system. Because had I not been, surrounded by other women in this industry, working with a coach, consuming all of this self-help content, I don't think I would have developed such a strong belief rooted in this idea that it's your excuses that are holding you back. And when the reality is, and I say this now wholeheartedly with my full chest, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I wholeheartedly believe that it takes a very specific type of person to be successful as a self-employed person. I think that in this day and age, the idea of demonizing the 9 to 5 and making it seem like being self-employed is so easy and so simple and anyone can do it is complete bullshit. And so for this version of me to say that like, oh, the only reason you're in a 9 to 5 is because you're letting your excuses win is completely neglecting the fact that not everyone wants to be self-employed and not everyone should be self-employed. But I just find it so fascinating that I can see how I would come to this conclusion at this point in time because of the type of content I was consuming and because of the type of people that I was surrounding myself with. And so it does allow me to have a little bit of empathy for some of the people that we even react to here on the channel to see that they are just a byproduct of the environment that they spend their time in.
So I want you to ask yourself this question. What experience do you already have that is going to contribute to your success?
Okay, this is interesting too, because this plays into the idea that anyone can turn anything into a business. If you know something, why not just find a way to monetize it, sell it to people, and get rich? It's along the similar lines of the video I posted a couple weeks ago where I talk about this incessant need for all of us to monetize all of our hobbies and everything we've ever known or anything we've ever done. But again, I think it's a narrative that's really perpetuated by the industry as a whole of you don't need that much experience. You just need to be a couple steps ahead of whoever you're trying to help, et cetera, et cetera. And it sort of fuels this environment where we have all of these very inexperienced people thinking that they can build a successful business off the back of nothing.
I want you to stop obsessing over why you can't have what it is you want and start really focusing on why it is you can have that.
Here we have my beliefs in manifestation at that time demonstrating themselves, I think.
Because trust me, I know from experience that you can have a successful business and you can create a life that you love. You get to have the freedom you want to do what you want when you want while running that business. Everything you want is yours to have when you decide that you are worth more than your excuses, you're willing to put in the work, get resourceful, and hashtag do the thing.
Oh God, so cringe. I forgot that that was like my thing. My mantra was always do the damn thing. I would caption it in all of my content. Hashtag do the damn thing. I also find it kind of ironic watching this video because I know for a fact at this time, if I'm recalling correctly, just based on like the apartment that I'm living in this video, this would have been maybe late 2018, early 2019. And at this point in time, I was teaching yoga through my business. I had this like life coaching stuff that was bringing in not very much money at all. And then I was also teaching English online to children in China. And so I wouldn't say specifically the coaching part of my business was wildly successful at this point in time. It was never wildly successful. I don't think I've ever sat down and ran the numbers, but I would guess that the like 2 to 3 years that I was a coach, I probably collectively didn't make more than $10,000. And so it's just kind of funny now to watch like, oh, you can have a super successful business. Again, not explicitly saying it, but I believe I'm referring to the coaching part of my business when I never had a wildly successful coaching business. Like, what are you doing? Why are you lying? Oh my goodness. Okay, next one should be good. It's titled Change Your Life.
Stop. We all want more time, less stress, more money, more freedom, less chaos, and more clarity. Now, what would you say if I told you you could change your life in just 3 simple steps?
3 simple steps? Sign me up.
Shush. It really is that simple. First, you need to believe that you're capable. Second, you need to take action now. Why wait until tomorrow when you could change something today?
Yeah, guys, why be a lazy little dumb idiot waiting for tomorrow when you could just change your entire life right now?
Third, you need to be consistent and persistent. The journey isn't always going to be easy, but trust me, it'll be worth it.
Okay, lady, again, word salad. What did I say there? Not a whole lot. Nothing that was really tangible or helpful. I'm just saying words, trying to make myself feel good. Hoping I get a few likes on my Facebook page. Danielle, what are you doing? Okay, last short one, and it says better 2019, but then in brackets it says July, so I'm a little bit confused. The text on screen says, let's make 2019 even better. So maybe this is like a half year check in. I used to do these often. So I would do like a mid year check in every year around June or July where I would be like, how are your goals going? Not to spoil the video. I don't know if that's what I'm going to say here, but I'm going to guess that's what I'm going to say here.
So friends, I want to get you set up to have the best 6 months yet in 2019 with these 7 simple steps.
Okay, I have a question. Was it a thing back in 2018, 2019 to break everything down into like a 5-step formula, 7-step formula, 3-step formula? I feel like all of these videos, I'm like,
Here's the 3 things you can do to change your life. Here's the 7 steps you can follow to make this the best year ever.
was that like a thing that we were doing back then? I don't understand this format.
First things first, let's get you an idea. What do you want to do in the next 6 months?
Okay, that's such a aggressive question. What do you want to do in the next 6 months? Well, I don't know, a lot of stuff, guys.
Second, what are the things you're going to need to get that thing done? Third, if it were really super easy, what would that look like for you? How would getting that thing done play out? Have I said the word things yet enough?
Again, I think that highlights my beliefs around manifestation at this time because I genuinely believed, if I write things down as if they're going to be so easy, then they're going to be easy. And so, what's the best case scenario here? And how is it going to work out? And it's like, this is such nonsense. Why are we putting this on Facebook?
Fourth, what are the costs associated with this? What resources do you already have available to you, and where are you going to need to invest? Whether that's time, whether that's money, whether that's information, what does that look like for you?
And just sell your TV if you don't have enough money to pay for it.
Fifth, I want you to ask yourself, what is holding me back? Why haven't you already done this thing? What do you need to let go of in order to make it happen?
I'm so distracted by the way that I'm talking in this video that I can't even listen to what I'm saying. Let me ask you a question. What experience do you already have? Like, why are we talking like this, lady? Ugh.
6, what unique qualifying experiences do you already have to get you the thing you want? And 7, what are you going to need to learn?
What was the point of that video? Who's gonna watch this and be like, oh my God, I just changed my whole life? Nobody. That's the answer. Nobody. Now it's time to get into the main event, the reason we've all gathered here today. This is a Facebook Live titled Take More Risks, and it looks like it's 10 minutes long. And I also look like I just rolled out of bed before I filmed this video, which if you watch the last one, same situation. I don't know what I was thinking. Beats me. Let's give it a listen and see what this Danielle has to say. Hello, just getting this set up. As always, going to share this to my personal page. And I said this last time, but I feel like an MLM boss babe being like, I'm live on Facebook. I'm live on Instagram. I'm live over here on this. And it's like, lady, no one cares. Just get set up. Hit live, start talking. Stop wasting my time. Thank you for tuning in. Today it is Friday. Feeling good, and I am super excited to talk to you. She says in the most monotone voice ever. Guys, I'm super excited to talk to you today. I'm just really, really excited to be here. Just to follow up with everything that we have been addressing this week and all about limiting beliefs, about what they are, how we come to the conclusion. There we go. Okay, we're good. And we're just going to go live here. Great. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll move my food out of the way. I don't know why this isn't working. Okay, I'm not on Wi-Fi. Okay, so bear with me a moment. Like I said, we're going to be talking about our
our limiting beliefs, just like we have been all week. So really getting into what they are, how we can address them, how we can go about getting rid of these limiting beliefs, remembering that we are the ones who create our realities. We create the things we choose to believe in, whether we consciously acknowledge that or not.
This was a big thing that I would always be talking about is limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, how your thoughts are creating your reality, how those thoughts are the things that are holding you back. And again, I think I've been pretty transparent about this in most of my content. Like, to a degree, I believe that the thoughts that we think about ourselves, that we feel about our circumstance, our environment, etc., those can have a direct impact on whether or not we set goals in our lives, whether or not we take the action to achieve those things, etc. But again, the thing that I constantly fail to recognize at this particular phase in my life is the external factors that come into play when it comes to making these decisions. Because I can have all of the belief in my capabilities and in my intelligence and in my ability to achieve the things that I want. But if my external circumstances prevent me from being able to take that action, no amount of belief is going to help me accomplish those things. And so I really just think that the perspective that I had at this point in time, 6 or 7 years ago, it was very oversimplified and really just failed to acknowledge a lot of the privilege that I had access to at this time.
We create our beliefs, and therefore we have the power to uncreate them or reverse them, change them, whatever that looks like for you and your reality. And so that is what I'm going to come on here today and reiterate for the third time this week. Essentially, I was talking with a client of mine this morning, and she had this breakthrough moment where she started to realize that once you start to break through one limiting belief, you sort of face one thing that was really, really scary, and you start to think about it from a different perspective, your whole idea of how things look and how you have to respond to things changes like that. So in her case, not to get too into specific details, she essentially had made a very difficult decision that she was mulling over whether or not she should do it. She knew deep down that she needed to make that decision and that she needed to go forward with it, but she was scared about what that was going to look like for her.
This feels like many of the podcasts we watch here on this channel where people talk about,
I was on a call with Sally and I was offering her the opportunity to invest $10,000 and she was scared. But then she did it and I got so rich and she felt so empowered she actually took action.
Obviously, that's not the situation here. I didn't have clients paying me $10,000, but it's just like the parallels are very, very obvious.
And so once she finally got to the point where she was okay and she went ahead and made the decision, she realized that she needed to let go of that aspect of her life. It was no longer serving her. The belief she had surrounding it was no longer serving her. Once she was finally able to let that go, all the subsequent decisions that came her way after that became infinitely easier. And I'm not telling you as this like miracle solution. I'm telling you because this is real life and this is how things work.
Guys, I'm telling you this because it happened one time to one person. Therefore, it is applicable to absolutely anyone and everyone who ever existed on this earth. Because it worked for this one individual person, that means I can now copy and paste it onto every other individual person that comes my way. Girl, wake up.
When she came to the realization that her belief that she had to follow path XYZ that she had been following for the past 3 years.
I'm trying to think of which client this was. And there's two that come to mind. And I think it might be related to them quitting their jobs, which is kind of scary to think about now.
Was no longer her path to follow. That belief was no longer serving her. Once she was able to let that go, she realized, wow, if I don't need that, then I don't need any of these other things that are coming my way and don't feel good. And so that's the point of these limiting beliefs that I've been talking about all week and how we can learn to let those go. Because once you learn to let them go, you start to realize so many other things that make sense.
I also feel like what I'm saying here doesn't really make sense because I'm not using a concrete example. Like, it would be much different if I was like, oh, my client came to me and she was feeling scared to quit her job. And then she realized once she quit her job, it was easier for her to decide, which job offer she was going to take next. And da 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 da. If I gave a tangible example, it might be easier for the viewer to follow along. But watching this now, having no idea what client I'm speaking about here, it's a lot harder for me to listen to this and be like, oh, yeah, that's great advice, because there's no specific examples being given. And I think, again, that's a common theme we see in a lot of the coaching content we react to here is these people speak in like very vague generalizations to try and sound uplifting or sound prophetic or sound, revolutionary in what they're saying, but they're not really saying anything tangible at all. It's giving word salad.
Because suddenly you don't feel as obligated to move through with these things that you're facing.
And suddenly you don't feel obligated to move through with the things that you're facing. Is this English? What are you saying?
And so I want you to sort of take this example and apply it to your own life. And so that might mean, yeah, you want to make a change. You're dealing with something that doesn't feel good, but you're a little bit afraid about trying something different. You're going to have to get uncomfortable. I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. That is just the reality of it. When we make change, we have to make difficult decisions that don't feel good in the time that we're doing them. But I promise you, the results you'll get from making that decision are going to feel good in the long run.
That is crazy for me to say. I agree with the idea that a lot of the times when we make big decisions, we make big changes, it's really fucking scary. And when you're making that decision, you think that the sky is falling and that nothing is ever going to work out for you ever again. And in some cases, everything goes fine. I literally remember 3 years ago when I decided to move from Ontario to BC, I was bawling my eyes out in the train station downtown Toronto before I boarded the train with my dog to come to Vancouver. I was terrified, and that decision has been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Everything in my life changed for the better after making that move. However, for me to say in this video that
I promise you, if you make the big scary decision, it's gonna work out for you.
absolutely f***ing not. What is true for me is not true for thee. And again, I think that this is a byproduct of what we see in coaching, where people use their anecdotal experience to prove that because I did this thing, you can do this thing and you're going to be successful too. And we see it in business coaching, we see it in life coaching, where I'm using my personal experience of I quit my job and it worked out for me, or my client made whatever this mysterious decision is and it worked out for her. Therefore, I promise everyone that if you do the scary thing, it's going to work out for you. When we don't know that, unless we really truly understand each individual person's circumstance, we cannot objectively say that if you make a scary decision, it's going to work out for you. That is so dangerous to be making statements like that, and is just completely misguided and neglects any individual circumstance that needs to be considered when it comes to making really big decisions. This girl is pissing me off. I hate her.
So if you aren't happy with something in your life, you need to be willing to get a little bit uncomfortable in order to change that.
Yes, guys, because every unfortunate circumstance in your life is a result of your own choices. You design your reality, and if you're not happy, that's because you have a bad attitude.
And so that means doing the tough thing, feeling into the fear, facing it anyway, addressing the fact that, yeah, I have this limiting belief. I believe that this is true, but I don't want to believe that that's true anymore. So acknowledging that, deciding that you are the one that can change it. You are the only one that can change it. No one is going to be able to change that for you.
No one's coming to save you.
Again, I'm saying words, I'm not giving examples. It's very unclear to me what's going on here, and I don't really understand my point.
So you have to recognize it, and you have to decide on your own that you are going to change it.
I think I also must be reading off a script here too. That's why I keep leaning in. And I remember I would always leave like Google Docs open when I was live streaming. So I'm trying to make it look like I'm not reading off a script, but I definitely would have had notes. If you're wondering why the delivery is so like weird and choppy.
So remember, the real risk in life is avoiding risk. So yes, something can seem scary, something can seem overwhelming, and then we tend to shy away from it because we're like, oh, that's too scary, too risky. That is the real risk itself, because like I said yesterday, your decision to not do anything at all is a decision in itself. We think that by deferring decisions, we are just not making decisions, but really we're doing the opposite.
Every time you avoid making a choice, you are making a choice to not make a choice. The whole delivery of this is really giving like sermon. It's kind of pissing me off. I think I already said that I was pissed off, but I'm actually getting very irritated watching myself talk like this because I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Why are you talking like that? We don't talk like this. I need to pause dramatically between every sentence so that you watching this video think that what I have to say is actually important, even though what I am saying doesn't make any sense at all and has no clear, tangible value. Write that down.
The decision to not do anything is a decision itself. Not choosing is a choice, and that choice is to not do anything. That is the choice that you are making.
I probably read that in the book. Let's be honest.
And so I want to remind you that if you're someone who is deferring decisions and not making a decision, I want you to think about how regret feels. So you have been putting off this decision, putting it off, and now 6 months goes by, a year goes by, and you're still stuck where you are.
Girl, use an example. I am literally begging you, if you want to make a point that people understand, use a example of what the hell you're talking about. It's not that hard. Why do we just keep saying, if you want to make a decision, okay, give me an example of a decision that you're talking about that you can make to make it easier? Like, I don't understand what your point is because you're not using any examples.
How does that feel? Probably not very great, because regret is not very fun. So if you're faced with a difficult decision right now, I encourage you to ask yourself, what is the life that you want to look back on?
What does your dream life look like? And more importantly, how would it feel? I want everyone watching this video to write in their journal as if they have their dream life, and more specifically, write down how it would feel and make a journal entry as if you already have that feeling.
I must have been working with coach number 1 at this time, because I'm like literally a spitting image replica of her.
5 years from now, are you going to regret not doing anything? 1 year from now, are you going to regret not doing anything? 6 months from now, are you going to regret not doing anything?
Again, nothing inherently problematic per se with what I'm saying. I think sometimes we really do need a kick in the pants to make decisions that we've been sitting around on. It's the delivery, it's the fact that we're not really making a fucking point, and it's the fact that we're trying to charge people money for this information. Like, girl, this is not revolutionary. Ah.
When I came to quit my 9-to-5 job, that was a big thing for me. It was like, 25 years from now, am I going to look back and be like, wow, I wish I had just quit my job when I was 26?
We're 6 minutes in, and I finally gave a tangible example to illustrate my fucking point. Damn.
And so it's up to you to decide what that regret is going to look like and whether or not it outweighs the fear associated with making that change. Asking yourself, what is the life that I want to look back on? How does that life look?
The dramatic pauses for me are killing me.
5 years from now, am I going to regret not doing anything? Because the decision to not do anything is a choice. I'll say that again. When we play not to lose, aka we avoid making decisions, we lose because we end up losing out anyway, because we miss out on the opportunities that could have come from making that decision.
Okay, but by that logic, if we make a decision, then we also lose out on the possible outcomes of having not made that decision. Like, if I stay in my 9-to-5 job, maybe I get promoted. But if I choose to leave my 9-to-5 job, then I miss the chance to get that promotion. But if I stay in the job, then I lose the opportunity to work for myself. Like, every decision has an opportunity cost. Why are we acting like one is definitely better than the other? Like, you can never say that definitively unless you somehow magically are able to live in 2 parallel realities where you get to see the outcome of both decisions. Like, yeah, we can sit around and speculate as to what might happen if we do or don't make a decision, but we never definitively know, because we only get one life and one chance to make each individual decision. Again, I think this really feeds into the like,
well, you have to do. Whatever is scary, you have to do it. And if you don't do it, then you're a loser.
You don't know that. You don't know that any of these things are true, but she's saying it. She, not me, she is saying it as if one answer is always definitively better than another, and there is no way to know that that is true.
And yes, that could be said about anything. Like, I could quit my job and then, oh, but if I had stayed at my job, like a promotional opportunity was coming a month later, but I was too impatient and I left.
I actually had no idea that I was going to say that. So it's like I'm self-aware enough to know that what I'm saying doesn't really make sense, but I'm probably going to try and justify it right now.
So yeah, you can say that about anything, but I truly believe that if you're being called to go in one direction, it's for a reason. And so even if it seems scary, you need to trust that, you need to lean into it, you need to follow it.
Okay, that response makes sense because again, I was so heavily invested in the manifestation space and like believing that the universe was guiding me on this path that I don't know, that I can recall believing that any kind of like intuitive inclination that I have ever had is a sign that I have to listen to. You can't ignore your intuition because if you do, you're doing yourself a disservice. So it makes sense that I would say this.
Because otherwise you're going to miss out on an opportunity that is actually aligned with where you're supposed to be.
Because again, I guess the intention is that like the universe knows the path we're supposed to be on. Presumably, I guess similar for people who are religious and believe that God has some like greater plan for you. The idea being that if I just trust the little nudges from the universe, they will guide me where I'm supposed to go, which for me personally is not something I really subscribe to now, but super interesting to see that that's how I'm justifying my very poorly backed up argument here.
Live with intention, not obligation. That is the point here.
Live with intention, not obligation. So actively choosing what we're doing instead of doing things because we feel like we have to do them. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Stop getting so caught up in the moment because in retrospect, nothing is ever going to be as scary as we think it is. We blow things up to be 10 times bigger than they actually are in reality. And our inaction is going to cause us more damage in the long run than the risk that we have blown up to be like, oh my God, this is so risky. That is never going to be as big as
Close your thought. You got it. I believe in you.
making the change. So like we think that this risk is going to be terrible and awful and blah, 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 blah. But not doing it and having to live with the regret is going to be way bigger than the risk associated.
So much judgment here. I'm judging anyone who doesn't quit their job. Ew, disgusting, loser.
So rather than living in regret, thinking, what would have happened if I just tried to do that thing? I want you to ask yourself, what could happen if I do try? Think about it from a positive aspect. We have a tendency to be so negative in our lives, thinking, everything's so hard, nothing's working out in my favor, I'm going to be a failure, blah, 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 blah. We tell ourselves this big negative story. So,
does this woman genuinely believe someone's going to watch this and be like, wow, you're so inspiring? Like, to me, it's coming off as like very judgmental of like,
If you don't do the thing that you're afraid to do, ew.
that's the impression I'm getting. Let me know in the comments how she's making you feel. She, her, not me.
I want you to try to ask yourself when you're when you're facing a really difficult decision, ask yourself, but what could happen if I do try? What is the best case scenario? We focus so much on the worst case. I want you to focus on the best.
Again, coming back to that exercise, write down in your journal, if everything goes right, what does it look like? And if everything goes wrong, what does it look like? And then brainwash yourself into believing that only the good's going to happen so that you make the decision and you do the thing, even though it's probably not going to happen. Best case scenario, let's be real, because life is unpredictable. But just convince yourself that it's fine, everything's fine, and it'll work because I'm 25 and I said it's going to work. So it's going to work.
If I try this thing, what could possibly happen for me? Could I be wildly successful? Could I finally find happiness? Could I feel more free in my day-to-day life and have the freedom to do what I want whenever I want?
Time for freedom, baby. That's what we're living for here.
Whatever that looks like for you and your situation. I promise you that at the end of the day, you're going to feel 10 times better having tried and failed. If you fail, maybe you'll be successful. Who knows? Either way, you're going to feel 10 times better having tried and knowing what the outcome is rather than living in this regret, in this limbo of like, well, what if? What could have happened? And never knowing at all.
Okay, I think this is where the cognitive dissonance is starting to show because now I'm not promising that things are going to go well. I'm saying you might try and you might fail, but even if you fail, you'll learn stuff. Whereas, 5-10 minutes ago, I was saying, well, if you do it, it'll work out for you. And so I think that at this point in time, I kind of knew that what I was saying wasn't 100% true and that there were definitely cracks in the logic, but I wanted to believe it wholeheartedly. And I had invested so much time and so much money into believing that it was true and that I was 100% in control of my reality, that I'm saying these things, but I'm not fully believing in what I'm saying. So then I'm letting it slip a little bit here and there with what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I'm seeing here. And again, I do think it's important to note that sometimes in life we do got to do things. We got to try them and see if they work. And if they don't work, oops, well, at least now I know. There is a thing to be said about living with regret for having not gone after the things we want. But if we're saying that, first of all, in a way where we're financially benefiting, like, oh, hire me as your coach and I'll help you do that. But then also to say that this particular approach is going to work for absolutely everyone when we don't know everyone's individual circumstance and we're unable to recognize that our experience is not a universal one. I think that's when it becomes really problematic for me. So I want you to get out there. I want you to do the thing. Take this message with you on this Friday afternoon. I will be back next week to chat with you. I'm going to be having some live training series coming up, so look forward to those. I love you all so much. Hopefully this was helpful for someone out there. As always, we can continue the conversation through DMs, so just send me a message if you want to keep chatting. And if you're watching on Facebook, I have linked the place where you can book a free call with me if this is something you want to continue to chat about. All right, like I said, I hope you all have a great weekend, and we will chat again soon. Nobody booked a free call, and nobody was DMing me on Instagram to chat further. I can promise you that. Oh my God. Cringe. Cringe, cringe, cringe. I hope that that was fun for you guys because I hated every second of it. I'm just kidding. I had fun. I don't know who that girl is, but I don't like her. I do think it's super interesting now in retrospect, like I said before, to go back and watch this content because I'm so disassociated with that version of myself. It always feels so surreal to watch, and especially now with my perspective, to see how much even I wasn't buying my own bullshit. Like when I film my YouTube content, for example, a lot of the times I am reading from a script, but I don't think you can tell. Please let me know if you can tell that I'm reading from a script because the things that I write in that script are things that I genuinely believe, things that I've come up with, you know, my own ideas, my own concepts. And I think the fact that I'm just like regurgitating other people's information is why a lot of these videos come off as so inauthentic because I myself probably didn't wholeheartedly either believe or really understand what it was that I was saying. And so it's super interesting to see this. Now, unfortunately, I think I have already scraped all of the rest of my content off the internet. But if at some point in time I come across other videos that we can react to, perhaps I will make another one of these videos. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to give it a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. I want to give a big shout out to our channel members, particularly those in the Millionaire Mastermind, as well as those of you in the Billionaire tier. Thank you so, so much for being here. I'm going to leave you on screen here with a video interview I did with a woman last week who was told by her coach to sell her car in order to pay for her coaching. That's going to be it for today. Take care. Comb your hair, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.